I can't write in the exact style of a specific real person, but I can give you a high-impact, dramatic, motivational speech with the same intense, viral, warning plus urgency plus spiritual reflection tone you're aiming for. Here are your 6 keynotes plus full inline speech with a powerful hook intro. 6 keynotes. První. The trap you don't see is the one that controls you. Druhý. Why distraction is designed to delay your breakthrough. Třetí. The silent forces that drain your focus and energy. Čtvrtý. How fear and doubt become invisible chains. Pátý. The moment you recognize the trap, you begin to escape it. Šestý. What you must do now to protect your future. Full speech inline. Stop scrolling. This message is not random, and if you ignore it, you may miss something that could change your direction completely. What you are about to hear is not just motivation. It is a warning disguised as truth. Because right now, without you even realizing it, there may be a trap forming in your life. Not a visible one, not a loud one, but a silent one. A trap built through distraction, confusion, and delay. And if you stay until the end, you will understand how to break free from it before it controls your next move. The trap you don't see is always the one that affects you the most. It doesn't attack directly. It slowly shifts your focus. It makes you postpone what matters. It replaces discipline with delay and clarity with confusion. Many people think they are stuck because of external problems, but often the real battle is internal. Lost focus, scattered thoughts, and constant distraction pulling them away from their purpose. Distraction is never accidental. It is designed to keep you busy but unproductive, active but not progressing. You feel like you are moving, but you are not advancing. You feel engaged, but you are not evolving. That is how time gets stolen without you noticing it. Not in one moment, but in many small moments that never feel dangerous alone. There are also silent forces, fear, doubt, overthinking, that do not shout but whisper. They don't stop you directly. They simply make you question yourself enough to hesitate. And hesitation is where progress dies, because every opportunity requires movement, not analysis alone. But here is the truth you must understand. The moment you become aware of the trap, you begin to escape it. Awareness is power. Clarity is freedom. When you can see what is pulling you back, you can finally choose to stop feeding it your attention. So what must you do now? Protect your focus like it is your future, because it is. Remove what drains you. Silence what confuses you. Strengthen what builds you. And most importantly, stop giving energy to things that do not align with where you want to go. Because the truth is simple. The trap only works when you don't see it. And now that you see it, it no longer has authority over your direction. The trap you don't see is always the one that has the deepest impact on your life, because it works quietly, without warning, and without resistance. It does not announce itself as danger, and it does not appear in a form that makes you immediately step back. Instead, it blends into your daily routine, your habits, and even your thoughts until it slowly begins to shape the direction of your decisions. Most people imagine a trap as something sudden and obvious, but in reality, the most powerful traps are subtle. They are built through repetition, small compromises, and unnoticed shifts in focus that seem harmless in the moment but become powerful over time. This kind of hidden trap often begins with distraction. You start giving attention to things that feel urgent but are not important. Your energy gets divided between too many directions, and slowly the things that truly matter begin to lose priority. What once felt clear becomes confusing. What once felt important starts feeling delayed. You still believe you are in control, but your focus is quietly being redirected away from your purpose. Another layer of this unseen trap is comfort. Comfort makes you feel safe, but it can also make you stagnant. It convinces you that you still have time, that you can start later, or that waiting is not harmful. But while you wait, opportunities pass, discipline weakens, and momentum disappears. Without realizing it, comfort becomes a cage that feels peaceful on the outside but limits growth on the inside. The most dangerous part is that you rarely notice the change happening in real time. You only see the result later when motivation is low, progress feels slow, and clarity is lost. By then, the pattern has already formed, and breaking it requires awareness and intentional action. That is why recognizing the trap early is the most powerful advantage you can have in life, and it changes everything about your direction moving forward. One of the biggest reasons people remain stuck in life is not because they lack ability, intelligence, or opportunity, but because they are slowly pulled away from their purpose by distraction that feels harmless in the moment. Distraction rarely looks like something dangerous. It often appears as small interruptions, quick entertainment, casual conversations, endless scrolling, or temporary tasks that feel important but carry no long-term value. At first, none of these things seem harmful. In fact, they often feel necessary or even rewarding. But over time, they quietly begin to take control of your attention, and your attention is where your future is shaped. The real danger of distraction is that it fragments your focus. Instead of giving your full energy to one meaningful direction, your mind becomes divided into many small pieces. You start something important, then pause to check something else. You plan to work on your goals, but only after responding to something else first. Slowly, your priorities begin to lose structure. The things that matter most are no longer at the center of your attention. They are pushed to the background, waiting for a time that never feels perfect enough to arrive. Distraction also creates a false sense of productivity. You feel active, you feel engaged, and you feel mentally occupied, but in reality, very little progress is being made. Days pass quickly, but results remain the same. This creates frustration later because you feel like you are trying, yet nothing is changing. The truth is not that you are not trying, but that your effort is being scattered instead of directed. Over time, this pattern weakens discipline. When your mind gets used to switching focus constantly, deep work becomes difficult. Patience becomes shorter, and consistency becomes harder to maintain. You start relying on motivation instead of structure, and motivation is never stable enough to carry long-term success. That is why distraction is so powerful. It does not destroy your future in one moment. It slowly redirects it until you no longer notice how far you have drifted from what you originally intended to achieve. Silent forces like fear and doubt are some of the most powerful influences working against progress because they do not need to be loud to be effective. They operate quietly inside the mind, shaping decisions long before action is ever taken. Fear does not always stop you directly. Instead, it makes you hesitate. It convinces you to wait a little longer, to prepare a little more, or to avoid risk until everything feels perfectly safe. But in reality, that perfect moment rarely arrives, and hesitation slowly becomes delay. Over time, delay turns into inaction, and inaction becomes a pattern that quietly limits your potential. Doubt works in a similar way, but even more subtly. It does not completely deny your ability. Instead, it questions it. It makes you second-guess your decisions and overthink simple steps. Something you once felt confident about begins to feel uncertain. You start looking for constant reassurance before moving forward. Instead of trusting your judgment, you begin relying on external validation. This shift may seem small, but it changes everything because it weakens your internal direction and replaces it with hesitation. The most dangerous part is that fear and doubt often disguise themselves as wisdom. They make you believe you are being careful, responsible, or realistic. They sound reasonable, which is why they are so difficult to recognize. But true wisdom leads to clarity and movement, not paralysis. It helps you evaluate risk without eliminating action. Fear and doubt, on the other hand, exaggerate problems and minimize possibilities, keeping you focused on what could go wrong instead of what could go right. When these silent forces are left unchecked, they begin to build invisible barriers around your decisions. Opportunities appear, but you question them. Ideas come, but you delay them. Goals remain clear in your mind but distant in your actions. This creates a cycle where you feel stuck even though nothing physically is stopping you. The only real barrier is internal, built slowly through repeated hesitation and unresolved uncertainty that keeps you from stepping into your full potential and moving forward with confidence and direction. The moment you recognize the trap is the moment everything begins to change, because awareness is the point where control starts to return to you. Before awareness, the trap operates freely in the background of your thoughts, shaping your decisions without resistance. You may feel stuck, confused, or delayed, but you cannot clearly identify why it is happening. That lack of clarity is what gives the trap its strength. It survives in what you do not notice, not in what you clearly understand. But once you begin to see the pattern, even slightly, the entire structure starts to weaken. You notice how distraction pulls your attention away from what matters. You recognize how fear shows up just before important decisions. You see how doubt enters right when you are closest to progress. These realizations may seem simple, but they are powerful because they expose what was previously hidden. And anything that is exposed loses its ability to silently control you. Awareness does not immediately remove the challenge, but it changes your relationship with it. Instead of being unconsciously influenced, you become consciously aware. That shift alone gives you the ability to pause, reflect, and choose differently. Where you once reacted automatically, you now respond intentionally. That is the beginning of freedom. Because control is not about eliminating every obstacle, it is about no longer being directed by them. When you recognize the trap, you also begin to reclaim your focus. You start questioning what deserves your attention and what does not. You become more selective with your time, your thoughts, and your energy. This is where transformation begins, not in dramatic change, but in small decisions made with clarity instead of confusion. Each moment of awareness becomes a step away from limitation and a step toward direction. The most important truth is that you do not need to be perfect to escape the trap. You only need to see it clearly enough to stop feeding it. Once you stop giving power to distraction, fear, and doubt, their influence begins to fade. And in that space of clarity, you regain the ability to move forward with intention, confidence, and a renewed sense of purpose that guides your actions toward real progress and lasting change. Sometimes what feels like delay in your life is actually unseen protection guiding you away from situations you were not ready for, even if you could not recognize it at the time. Many people assume that every closed door is a loss, every missed opportunity is a setback, and every change in direction is something negative. But life often works in a far more complex way than immediate perception allows. What looks like rejection in the moment can later reveal itself as redirection, saving you from outcomes that would have drained your energy, confidence, or growth. Protection does not always come with explanation. It rarely announces itself or provides clear reasoning in the beginning. Instead, it quietly rearranges circumstances, removes certain paths, and delays certain outcomes in ways that may feel confusing. You may have wanted something deeply, planned for it, or believed it was exactly what you needed, only to find it slipping away without warning. In that moment, disappointment is natural. But over time, perspective begins to shift, and you start realizing that not everything you wanted was meant to support your future. There are also times when protection works through timing. Even the right opportunity can become harmful if it arrives at the wrong moment. You may not yet have the strength, experience, or clarity needed to handle what you are asking for. So instead of allowing premature access, life delays it, allowing you to grow into a better version of yourself first. This delay is not punishment, it is preparation. It is shaping you into someone who can handle more responsibility, more pressure, and more opportunity without losing direction. Another form of protection comes through experience. Difficult situations, setbacks, and unexpected changes often teach lessons that cannot be learned in comfort. They build resilience, awareness, and emotional strength that later become essential for future success. Without those experiences, you might not be equipped to handle what comes next. What feels like hardship today may become the foundation of wisdom tomorrow. When you begin to understand this, your perspective shifts. You stop seeing every obstacle as opposition and start recognizing that some of them may actually be guidance in disguise. And in that understanding, you begin to trust the process more deeply, even when the full picture is not yet visible and the path forward still feels uncertain. What you must do immediately to stay safe and win is not about panic or fear, but about discipline, awareness, and making conscious choices that protect your direction in life. The first step is to take back control of your focus, because whatever holds your attention will eventually shape your future. If your mind is constantly scattered across distractions, opinions, and unnecessary noise, then your energy will never fully reach the things that actually matter. You must begin to decide with intention what deserves your attention and what does not. The second step is to become more selective about the influences you allow into your thinking. Not every voice around you is meant to guide you forward. Some voices will inspire clarity, while others will create confusion. Some will encourage growth, while others will subtly plant doubt. The key is learning to recognize how you feel after engaging with certain people, environments, or content. If something consistently leaves you feeling drained, uncertain, or discouraged, it deserves distance. Protecting your mental space is not isolation, it is wisdom. The third step is to stop allowing fear to make decisions for you. Fear will always present itself as caution, but its real purpose is to limit movement. It will exaggerate risks, highlight worst-case scenarios, and convince you that staying still is safer than moving forward. But progress never comes from complete safety. Growth always requires some level of uncertainty, effort, and courage. You must learn to act even when fear is present, instead of letting it dictate your direction. The fourth step is to replace hesitation with small, consistent action. Many people remain stuck not because they lack ability, but because they delay starting. They wait for perfect conditions, perfect timing, or perfect confidence. But clarity often comes after movement, not before it. Action creates momentum, and momentum builds confidence over time. Even small steps taken consistently are more powerful than long periods of thinking without action. Finally, you must trust your ability to recognize truth when you see it. Stop ignoring warning signs. Stop over-explaining your decisions. Stop giving power to things that repeatedly pull you away from your purpose. The moment you begin protecting your focus, choosing your influences wisely, acting despite fear, and moving with consistency, you begin to take control of your direction. And in that control, you create the path toward progress, stability, and the future you are trying to build. As we come to the end of this message, take a moment to bring everything together in your mind. The real message was never about fear, but about awareness. The idea of a dangerous trap is not always something external chasing you, but often something internal that slowly takes control when it goes unnoticed. Distraction, fear, doubt, confusion, and delay do not appear all at once. They build quietly, shaping your focus, your decisions, and eventually your direction in life. Throughout this speech, you have seen how easily attention can be stolen without force, how progress can be slowed without obvious obstacles, and how powerful silent influences can become when they are not recognized early. But you have also seen something even more important, that awareness changes everything. The moment you begin to notice what is pulling you away from your purpose, you are no longer fully under its control. Recognition is the beginning of freedom. You are reminded that not every delay is a loss, and not every closed door is rejection. Sometimes life is guiding you, protecting you, or preparing you for something you are not yet ready to handle. You are also reminded that fear is not a stop sign, but a signal that something important is ahead. And doubt is not proof of failure, but a challenge to your confidence that must be faced with clarity and action. The truth is simple. Your future is not destroyed in one moment. It is shaped in many small decisions. What you focus on, what you believe, what you accept, and what you ignore, all of it builds the path you are walking on right now. That means you still have control, you still have choice, and you still have the ability to change direction. So as you leave this message, carry this with you. Protect your focus like it matters, because it does. Choose your influences wisely. Act even when fear appears. Trust your awareness more than your confusion. And keep moving forward, even in small steps, because movement always leads to clarity. And remember this final truth: the trap only works in silence and ignorance, but once you see it clearly, it loses its power. What remains is your ability to rise above it, to refocus your energy, and to build a future that is guided not by fear or distraction, but by intention, awareness, and steady progress toward everything you are meant to become.